Today I'm just going to show you some of the little mods that I did to my little case here for the H500. What you can see here is, we'll start at the front corner here, little wind speed indicator that I use to determine if it's basically too windy to fly. These slots here are normally for the GoPro batteries and GoPro charger. They're all on charge at the moment, so don't need to use them. Here I have, of interest to Paul maybe, my little GoPro lens hood that I made with a tinted cover. That's enough to stop any of the flicker from the blades of the H500. I have one that's for really good bright times. This one here is just for normal, normal days, slightly cloudy. If you just want to get rid of that flicker, just clips onto the front of the GoPro and away you go. All the rest of the top here, I've made 4 little slots, or 3 little slots here for the batteries for the flight controller, and I actually label them 1, 2 and 3, and I use them in order. So I believe number 3 is in the controller itself now. When that one's used, I will take that out and use number 1. Over the back here is a slot normally for the GoPro, although I'm tending to leave the GoPro on the H500 at the moment. H500 sits in here with obviously a NASA upgrade. Up the top here I've taken a little bit of foam out so when the case actually closes it doesn't push too hard on that particular area. So we'll take the H500 out. Just quickly, you might notice that I've actually changed the dampeners on these to full length both sides. Don't know if you can see both yet. You can see both sides there. And I find that just that little bit more stable when it's landing on slightly rough areas. The area that I fly out the back is sloped a couple of degrees, and because of that, the damper that it had, or the landing skid that it had front and rear there, was enough sometimes to tip it over if you hit a rocky bit in the centre. Just at the bottom of the craft here, that's where I've got my transmitter for the video, and that's the little NASA light. I'll move that out of the way. Find somewhere to sit it. That'll do. In the centre of the case, I'll move the camera a little bit in a moment so you can actually move the case a bit so you can see. I've had a couple of other cutouts in the bottom here. 2 here are for small little containers that, a little bit of plug for Rise Above Aerials there, that I use to hold, in this case, tools. Usually there's a couple of extra cables in there. In this one here I've got all the charging adapters, charging plugs and a couple of tools and spare aerials and stuff like that. They sit in the case all the time. Only usually get them out when I need to charge the craft. The charger normally sits in here, but at the moment I've moved it over to this point here because I might cut these out for more batteries. There's enough room to squeeze, I think, a battery in at that point and maybe 2 here. And if I can get another couple of batteries, I would be happy. Now, I'll move around the other side of the camera. Down in here, I've actually cut that right down to the bottom, and I have my little 7-inch FPV screen that I use. I actually power that off the F12E, which, pull that out. I actually did a rough mod. I put a bar up the back, and that happens to fit inside a slot at the back of the screen. So the screen itself is not actually, if I put it on correctly, is not actually screwed on, so if you turn it upside down it will fall off. But when hanging from the strap like this, it's more than capable of holding itself. Now, power's just from there, which comes from the top port of the F12E. What other slots have we got cut in here? Oh yeah, over this side we have a couple of spare sets of blades. They go all the way down. We have my LiPo charging bag which sits in here. Some cards for, well, Phantom flyers as well as myself. And spare aerial for the receiver there, which I don't use. And the old camera. I don't use this anymore. In fact, I did actually modify the 32 gig card, I'll take that out. I did modify the H500 so that it will no longer support this camera. I took a lot of the gear out, and then when I actually upgraded to the NASA system, there's no point. But I've sort of left the camera in here in case I get somewhere and someone wants to fly. Personally, I don't use the clip for the front of the GoPro. I use rubber bands, so there tends to be a lot of rubber bands sitting around in the case as well. And of course, something everyone should have, some information on the H500 spares. They're actually the old system, but hey, you know, I'll make one up for the NASA when I get a chance. And they just sit neatly at the back of the case. I find the case pretty good. It doesn't have wheels, so I bought a little trolley, but for what I needed, it's certainly good enough. Anyway, I hope that's given you a little insight as to the mods that I did for my case. A few of the little slots down here had to be modified so that the gimbal fitted properly, but otherwise, it's a good case. It works for me, and yeah, any of you guys get them? I picked it up for about $150 from China, delivered. So very, very happy with it. Okay, see ya.